Hello and welcome to the Expandly podcast. I am absolutely delighted to be joined by the CEO of Seller Candy, John. John and Expandly, or John Seller Candy and Expandly have been in partnership for a long time now, and we've shared various insights over the years to help educate people on the sort of listing suspensions, etc. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. So just a quick intro. Drew, head of sales at Expandly. I lead a great team of people, support businesses and sellers expand their brands internationally. John, I wonder if you could just give us a bit of an intro to you and Seller Candy.
John Cavendish. I founded Seller Candy a while ago now, 5 years ago, sorry, 5 and a bit years ago. Our belief at Seller Candy is the worst part about selling on Amazon is dealing with Amazon. So we make it so you never need to talk to seller support again. So we have a team of ex-seller support agents based all over the world. You plug into us, you give them outcomes, and then we get whatever you want done for you without any templated responses.
And so what a dream it sounds. Just that one paragraph you mentioned, I mean, it must alleviate a lot of problems and concerns for people when they come to you. So fantastic. Thank you. So, John, I know we're going to dive into a bit of granular stuff today, but I'd just like to kick off with one of the biggest questions, really. So, why do Amazon listing suspensions happen so often? Why is it such a big? I mean, you've built a successful business out of it. Why does it happen so often?
It's a good question. I built a successful business out of it, I think, because it was the thing that everyone hates doing the most. And for some reason, maybe into BDSM or something, I like to be punished or something like that. But I don't know why I started it, but it's been a great niche for us, and it happens all the time because Amazon is continuously trying to tighten up their marketplace, which is awesome. We want it to happen, but because of that, they create bots that go around all the listings and flag keywords. For example, for the pesticide thing, antibacterial was flagged as a pesticide-based keyword, so everything gets taken down. So we're there as Amazon tightens things up, and then things get caught in the crossfire. We're the one that steps in to help protect the sellers, basically.
Okay, cool. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned about bots there. Now, I know it may sound like stating the obvious, but coming from somebody who this isn't, my bag really. Is that predominantly what Amazon's doing? Are they sending around? Are they just looking for certain keywords by using a bot and then going, no, thank you, and just pulling that automatically? Or is there any sort of sense involved with it, any human interaction at that stage for people to go, actually, is this accurate or not? Are we doing the right thing by removing this listing? Or is it a case of doing it first and deal with it later sort of attitude?
So kind of like bots, so like new things that come out is one of the things. The other one is just trends in your sales, trends in your listings, trends in your reviews. So that shows up as like voice of the customer in the back end of seller support. And there you can see like things people are mentioning in their negative reviews, feedback they're giving. And, for example, I'm sure none of us are ever guilty of it, but you want to return a product, Amazon says you have to pay for the return. So people just say, oh, it's faulty. And then you end up with a high fault level because it's a product that's often returned. And all these little things, and you just have to make sure you're keeping track of them because otherwise they mount up, and then Amazon you hit a threshold and your listing gets suspended.
Sure. In terms of, you mentioned keeping track of them, what can you do? What can one do to, if they are tracking it, what can they do to influence that? Because if somebody's returning something and just instantly putting it down as, choosing one of the 10 options that Amazon give you and giving no care to that, but it just so happens that they're picking a 41 and there's actually nothing wrong with your product yet, it's being flagged as being faulty. What would tracking it achieve almost?
Good question. If it's something which is obviously incorrect, because usually they have to put a reason by the thing they've said, then you can just raise a case about it and talk to seller support about it and deal with it before it becomes an issue. So tracking, it's not so much tracking as in like a spreadsheet. It's more just keeping an eye on everything and then making sure when trends start to happen, you're tackling them up front. So you don't get to the point of suspension and then you've got to get it back. It won't take that long, hopefully, but it's just a pain. You're losing sales every day that your product's down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very troublesome. Which in terms of troublesome, like how serious is it for a seller to get suspended on Amazon? Just talk us through what that looks like for them and the complications it can present.
So there's like two types of suspensions, really, main suspensions. There's listing suspensions, which are semi-serious. Like it depends on the issue. It could just be you can get it back same day. It could take 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get it back, and then it's pretty
Right.
serious if you're doing $1,000 a day, $2,000 a day, $10,000 a day. That really hurts. It sucks. And then there's an account suspension. Account suspensions are super serious, and you don't want that to happen because at that point you are now locked out of your account. So you lose access to all of the easy ways to contact Amazon. So you can no longer go through all the normal
Oh, really?
systems. So then you're sitting there going, what do I do? And in both those situations, what you don't do is send an emotional email begging for your product or your account back, because that's how you end up saying something stupid, and then get yourself backed into a corner. So you need to sit down and meditate, and then move forward.
Okay, yeah, that makes complete sense. You're right. I mean, you can be the frustrated. I mean, I imagine well, so not only immensely frustrating for the business owner or the member of staff in that business, but obviously it hurts it financially extremely hard, because especially if Amazon is the only sales, only marketplace is selling, or only sales channel they've got. I mean, it just halts business, from day one, doesn't it?
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, so immediately you can't sell, and then we're all inventory based businesses, so
mm,
like I assume you've met a lot of people. They think that people are making so much money if you're selling a million, 2 million, $5 million a year, and then you realize the business has about this much cash
mhm.
because they're continuously eating it up in expansion. So if you've got a product that's selling $5,000 a day, that means you're using what $2,000 a day worth of inventory. You're probably holding I don't know, 200, $250,000 worth of inventory. So if your product doesn't come back, you're stuck with $250,000 worth of stuff,
Yes,
which is then
indeed.
being Amazon is charging you an insane amount of money every month to keep in their warehouse.
Yeah, it's quite scary. Yeah. So, what are the most common reasons that Amazon would suspend somebody's listings? You mentioned the two types of it, but
Hmm.
what are some of the reasons?
So some of the stuff we talked about before. So voice the customer. So
Yeah.
anyone who's listening to this should go into the voice of the customer, see what trends are coming up, see whether it's green, amber, or red. Um, IP violations. So it could be that you're mentioning compatible with, or that your product's
Um,
compatible with something else. You got to be careful with that. The wording compatible with is valid, but sometimes these brands who, if you're selling something that they already sell themselves, they'll try and make like a fraudulent IP claim to take you down because you're taking sales away from them, selling their very expensive second party accessory. You can sell your third party accessory.
hmm.
Um, And then then just mistakes in your listing. So whether you've included keywords you shouldn't have included, if it's a supplement or something that's a consumable, having like approved things that you say about it, you can't say it cures cancer, or you can't say anything that cures cancer. Be extreme. You can't say that it will help with this function. You have to say that it has, studies may have helped with such and such. So all these little things and nuances is super important to get right, and work with an agency or just work with us if you've got a problem, basically.
Okay, that last point that you mentioned about the the claims or the statements, which
Mm,
quite often, if a seller is based outside of the UK or EU in this
mm,
example, or to discuss in Europe, that may well be appropriate. For instance, if you
mm,
take the US as something like, I mean, not curing cancer, I mean, that's the extreme, but something along those lines may be acceptable. Whereas
mm,
when they come to Europe, it's not. I mean, we do on the other side of that, as you well know, with the product compliance and making sure that those statements are removed from their physical product. But quite often, it's interesting you mention it, that they don't take that in consideration on their listings. But of course, you're saying that, of course, that's the same thing essentially. So if they're keeping those statements or information on their listings, that's equally as damaging, and in some cases worse, because of course, if this leads to suspension of their account, then they can't sell any of their stock altogether. So that's really interesting. I think that's something really important to note, that to check your listings, not just your products, because both are good, equally as valuable.
mm. Yeah, and as you were saying there about like compliance in Europe, I mean, I don't envy you. I mean, I guess I envy you because you've got made a great business out of it, but not on the fact like all the stuff Europe tries to do to try and make you compliant.
Yeah.
Like registering packaging in different countries for what you do with it to dispose of it, and recyclability and all that stuff. Like, I guess it's good
Mm.
for the environment, but it just seems like a huge amount of bureaucracy that's just I don't know. I don't know if it's good for the world or not.
Yeah, I think that's yet to be seen. To be honest,
Yeah.
I mean that's another podcast about EPR. But we tend to find people fall asleep when we start talking about European, product compliance in its sense. But yeah, I mean it's one of those subjects which I think we'll suck it and see whether it causes any positive or negative impact in the future. But yes. Um, so how does Amazon tell you if I'm an Amazon seller? How will I be notified whether I've got an impending suspension or whether they even tell me I've got an impending suspension?
Hmm.
But like, how would I know?
So impending, the only way you can really tell for impending, if there is anything that shows it's impending, is the account health dashboard. So you go into your seller account, go to the account health dashboard, and voice the customer. They're the two things you want to look.
Mm, right.
And then if you do have a suspension, you'll have hopefully two forms of notification. One will be a performance note, like a notification at the top of your seller account, so you'll see it when you click on notifications. And they should also send you an email, so you should get an email with the information in it. And I think you should definitely get that one. Even if you've turned off everything else, hopefully you've turned off other stuff. If you haven't already, go into your account and go into notifications and turn off most things, because otherwise you're
Mm,
getting buried every day under a
right.
thousand
Interesting.
emails.
Okay, and presumably that notification will detail exactly what it is that it's been suspended for, and then presumably it will give me some indication as to what I need to do about it
Somewhat, yes.
or
The
not.
answer is always the somewhat.
Yeah.
Yes, it will tell you, but not quite. So,
Okay.
like product compliance, what is it? Is
Yeah.
it product safety complaint? That one's easier. It'll tell you what the safety complaint is. The problem then is that it probably isn't an issue that you even see as an issue. It's probably a
Mhm.
trend from voice of the customer. So we've actually got a
Right.
webinar that we do sometimes that talks through all these different types of things that happen. But
Mm.
something I was saying to our team today, and I say in the webinar every time, is when Amazon comes and flags your product as you have a product safety issue or you have a compliance issue, like, do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? Like, do you want to make money? And we want to
Mm.
make money. So we have to admit
Right.
to whatever random BS they're saying, put a plan in place of how that's not going to happen again, even though it's never going to happen again, and then make sure they can tick all the boxes so they can get us out the other side as quickly as possible.
Interesting. And I was just going to come to plan of action. Actually, you've covered that quite nicely and what they can do. So in terms of the response, so
Hmm.
we receive a suspension, and then I want to detail this response. You mentioned earlier about not basing that on emotion. So
Yeah.
structurally thinking about it. What are some of the common mistakes people make outside of that
Hmm.
keyboard frustration piece?
Yeah. So yeah, as I said, kind of we go through a bit more detail. Do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? You want
Yeah.
to do a three-step plan of action. One, acknowledge the issue. Um, yeah, sorry, this happened. It shouldn't have happened. This should never have happened. Two, what you're doing immediately. Is if it's a product issue, almost always the immediate action is I requested a bin check. I requested Amazon to check the warehouse and check that issue isn't with anything else, because you can
Mhm.
request that in seller support. And three, what you did going forward so that it's not going to happen again.
Right.
Usually it's probably something to do with your manufacturing, like, oh, we'll get it, make sure it's still inspected as it always is before it comes. Because a lot
Mhm.
of the time, these things will be random issues, like Amazon's resold a return as new, even though someone had opened it. That's a major thing that tends to happen.
Oh, really interesting.
Issues.
But will Amazon take responsibility for that?
Uh, they may do if you went round in circles, but do you want that, or do you want to
Yeah,
get
I
your
suppose
product
that's
back
the
up
point.
and selling as quickly as possible?
Yeah,
You can argue for a month, and then you've
and you
lost
may
most
get
of
you
the
you
ground.
may get acceptance that one product's been sold as a used product, but you're right. I mean, what good's that going to do in the grand scheme of things? Yeah, absolutely. And I think I just fell into that trap then, and you're telling
Mm.
me that not
Yeah, but that's not the truth. Like, so what? Yeah, true though.
yeah, yeah,
This happens to
absolutely.
a lot of our customers.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Um, and so obviously, if they get suspended,
Mm.
they obviously can get some support first and foremost, or think about it logically before providing that. Is there anything that sellers can do to prevent themselves in the first place? Now, I suppose it's a bit of a could argue that's a bit of a silly question because there's so many reasons why you could be suspended. So,
Mm.
but is there anything obvious that people can do?
Yeah, I mean,
to
really
minimize
obvious.
the risk?
Yeah, really obvious stuff. Check your account health regularly, a few times a week. Check your voice to the customer regularly. Respond to Amazon regularly. If they send you a case, respond to them. I mean, there's all
Okay,
things that people forget and don't do.
sure.
If you go on holiday, um, make sure that you don't leave your account open and just not respond to stuff. I mean, that's one of our
Oh,
clients got
yeah.
suspended once for doing that. But that's just a random error, random mistake. If you have to go
Yeah.
put your account in holiday mode, do that. If not, hopefully hire a team and or an agency and get them to handle it. All the common sense stuff, to be honest. It's just make sure you have a process. Someone's actually running the
Sure.
business with a process and ticking things off, and it's not just what do I feel like doing today. Treat it like a real business.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh, what about managing Amazon's or your Amazon account better or more efficiently? Are there any tools or services available that can help them stay up to date with this? You mentioned, for instance, people going putting their account in holiday mode. If they don't have anybody else to manage that, is there any other support they can get through AI tools or anything Candy offers to support with that?
I hear Expandly does some services, don't they?
I want a plug. Actually, I wasn't. That wasn't intentional for you to come back to us. Actually, but yes, we
No,
do.
I'm
We'll talk
joking. But yeah,
about
of
it.
course. I mean,
It's
use
even
a
about
high
us.
quality service provider that's recommended by Amazon, such as Expandly or Seller Candy. We're also an SPN service. We don't do ongoing performance management. So if you need someone to do ongoing management, talk to someone else. But if you need someone to support with the day-to-day operations and you don't want to hire someone, I don't know, expensive in the UK in an office, and you want to
Mm,
hire someone outsourced who really knows what they're doing with this technical stuff, come to someone like us, and we can help you expand your team before you're ready to hire, expensive people. And when you do hire those expensive people, we are the addition which stops you from giving them all of the low value tasks. So you use us to expand your team basically, and give us the low value but really complex, high complexity tasks, which otherwise
mhm.
you're going to pay someone $5,000 a month to do in the
Yeah,
West.
indeed. Okay, cool. Yeah, cheers, John. And in terms of Amazon's ever-changing rules, which
Mm,
in this space, I mean, Soda Candy, fully up to date with them, and up to date with the amendments that they're making to Seller Central as they move on. But is there a way that somebody who may not be deeply embedded with Amazon or has spent a long time managing their own account, is there any
mm.
way that they could stay up to date with the ever-changing rules to minimise the risk of them coming up against, for instance, these compliance issues in Europe before it's too late? Or how would you suggest they do that? Maybe.
Yeah, I hear Expandly has a has a newsletter. We have a
Sorry.
newsletter. We have a newsletter. So yeah, basically, like you got to consume good content around these things, or work with a service provider who is working on all like loads of accounts at once, so they see them
Mhm.
first. They're the only two ways that I know to stay ahead. So join a good newsletter, or work with a service provider who's plugged into many accounts in that area.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Now, I've got a big question for you here, John.
Yeah.
How do you think Amazon are fair in how it handles its suspensions? Yes or no, and why not? Why or why not? I don't know what you're going to say.
Hmm. Fair is a hard word, isn't it? Because fair is like interpretation. I think they do the best they can with the resources they have, as we all do. um I think they can be callous with the amount that it affects certain businesses and just wipe out people's businesses. And that's the same as all the other tech oligarchs, whether it's Facebook with Facebook ads or
Yeah.
Google. If your business runs on their platform, they decide they don't like you, they'll wipe out $1 million of their income stream just like that because they don't care. So I think that it would be nice if they had a specific team that could deal with this
Mm,
quickly and efficiently. That would be nice.
sure. Just one thing I want to touch on with regards to dealing with seller support.
Mm,
Obviously, you mentioned there about them not having almost dedicated people who are experts or subject matter experts in particular areas. What I've found in the minimal activity I've had with it is that you, excuse me, you often get conflicting information, or you get somebody who knows exactly what the problem is and you get it fixed very quickly, or you can go around the house and speak to five or six different people or 5 or 6 different times, and you still don't get to the same result that you may have had, a result on 3 months ago. Is that common in your space? I'm going to assume it is, but is that something which your team experience regularly?
Yes.
Is it normal? Yeah.
Normal, 100%. And our goal by having a team of very experienced ex support agents is that we try and not talk to seller support as much as possible. So we try to go around, whether we can do flat file, feed file updates, whether we can call them, whether we can do our process first, and then try and skirt around the side and just call them up for confirmation at the end, basically. Yeah, you get stuck.
Sure. Okay, that's good. I think people take comfort in that because it can be quite painful, can't it? So, yeah, I think that's good. Thank you. We are nearing the end now, John. But what's one piece of advice you'd give to every Amazon seller who's listening today? Your top piece of advice for either ensuring they're not being suspended, or if they are, how to overcome it.
Top piece of advice. If you're really worried about getting suspended, and if you haven't been suspended in the last few months, there's a new product out there called Seller Defender. It's from a Shawful. So if you don't have proper insurance on your account, you need proper insurance on your account because it's an Amazon requirement once you pass a certain number of sales. So a Shawful is great for that, but they have a new product called Seller Defender where you pay a certain amount per month, and it's a real insurance product where they will basically insure you against account suspensions and listing suspensions.
Wow.
So if you're really worried about that, go sign up for that. Otherwise, join our mailing list so you know how to find us when you need us. You probably also want to do that. We have a guide actually on how to solve a lot of the technical stuff in the back end of your account. You can download that at sellercandy.academy rather than sellercandy.com. Sellercandy.academy is a guide of literally how we do a lot of what we do. So you can try and do some of it for yourself.
Wicked. I was just going to mention where can they find out a bit more. So that's great. We'll put these links along with this when it goes out, so people have got it. Is there any other way they can get hold of you? Presumably, sellercandy.com.
Sellercandy.com. You can email me if you already want to, john@sellercandy.com, and I'll answer you and then introduce you to one of our guys. Otherwise, you can book a call or learn more at sellercandy.com and just click the button there.
Fantastic. Sounds ace. John, very much appreciated. Thank you. I've learned a lot. I'm sure it'll be more than valuable to our listeners. So thank you very much for your time. We'll be speaking soon, no doubt. But thanks again, and all the best. Thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Drew.